off, and there you go on the bottom of your screen. It's 8.5 hours from now, so about 5 p.m. here in Hong Kong. And it looks as if they will go ahead with this launch because the weather forecast looks good. And obviously everyone will be watching, of course, this latest leap into space. Now, it's going to be a long trip. That's a bit of an understatement, really. The journey will cover, 680 million kilometers. It's unmanned, but, as we spoke about earlier, if you were on board, that would rack up enough frequent flyer miles to last you, your family, and just about everyone you know for generations.
Would you take me to Mars?
Well, we could go to Mars.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm sure if anyone takes us there. Or if you could take the trip, because or if you could take the long trip, because it's going to take 10 months for the craft to actually reach Mars's orbit. ETA is late September of next year, so if you have 10 months to spare, why not? Now, the mission's price tag is $73 million. It's a tiny fraction, though, I think this is worth noting here, of what's being spent on this upcoming U.S. mission to Mars, which is scheduled for later this month. India spent about $1.1 billion on its space programs. Obviously a tiny fraction of what Japan spends, 3.3, and I guess more so for the U.S., which spends about just under $18 billion there on its annual space budget. But still, that hasn't stopped critics of India's space program saying that the money could actually be better spent for more pressing problems on the ground. Keep in mind, of course, 2/3 of the population actually live on less than, or survive on less than $2 a day.
And so I guess the question is, do you look at it half glass full or half glass empty? Do you spend the money on a problem that you have today, or do you spend it to innovate yourself into growth to help the people on the ground at some point in the future?
Right. Well, I guess it's not. I think it's worth noting that I guess India's actually launched over 100 space missions. I mean, it's the first one to Mars, but they've launched 100 space missions in their space program, so it's not actually the first time they're actually, taking on such an initiative. But at the same time, if you compare how much India spends annually on its space, on its space program, that amounts to half of what it spends on nutrition programs, feeding free lunches for school kids, 160 million of them under the age of 6. So it's a big amount of money. But again, the other side of it is that now it elevates the profile of India. We all know India for its technological prowess. It joins the U.S. You have Russia. You have Europe, Japan, and China to have attempted to go to Mars. If they're successful, they will actually be the first country in the world to get it on their first try. And obviously it's a tall order because more than half of these Mars missions have actually failed.
But a big part of this push to Mars is also China, whose ambitions, space race,
right.
The Asia space race, and maybe that is an interesting headline for the broader Asia influence in the next decade to come. David Ingles, thank you so much.